Happy Resurrection Sunday. It's a good morning to be in the house of God celebrating, and this ain't no joke. This ain't no April Fool's joke. This is real deal. Jesus didn't just die a sinless death. He had to raise back to life so that we can have a new life. It's the one thing that sets Jesus apart from every other person that claimed to be some form of a deity. He died and resurrected on the third day. That's what defines him as different above all the rest. A sinless death, a sacrifice, a willing sacrifice, but then new life so we could have new life. So we could have a new day in our life, a new mercy, a new grace in our life. Before you take a seat, I want to talk to you for a few seconds, and I want to welcome you. I want you to hit your neighbor and say, "What's up? What's up?" Stay standing, though. Stay standing. Stay standing. I want to welcome every new visitor with us. If you're part of our house, if you haven't come in a while, welcome back. Welcome. We haven't seen you in a while. If you're new with us, welcome. We hope that you feel comfortable. We hope that you love your experience today. We just, as a house, as Kingdom Culture, it's our heart to help people really experience the reality of Jesus in their lives. We believe that Jesus didn't come to establish a religion, but he came to establish a relationship. And that's what we're celebrating today. And you know, you saw really just one little snapshot on the stage earlier with a couple. They're part of our house, part of our team. You saw their journey. You saw their struggle. You saw their darkness. They were really vulnerable with it. And I want to give props to them because it took a lot of guts. It took a lot of guts to be that real and vulnerable and share their story. That was the first time they've shared their story like that publicly. And then if you notice, they danced it out. Wasn't that so powerful? They danced out their testimony, and now there's a restoration and forgiveness, which is really the picture of what we're celebrating today. But they're just one of many, many stories in this house of people's lives being totally transformed. If you're new with us this morning, you're in a group of people that are just like you. Former drug addicts, people that have come out of rough situations, hard life situations, marriages that have been torn apart and are back together, people that have been through divorce, maybe right now living in separation. Everybody in this room has a different story. But let me just tell you that this house, it's a house full of hypocrites, and that's okay. Because God didn't come to establish a message that he did for the perfected. He came for the broken, the messed up. He was perfect. And we're in this house this morning, and we're a bunch of imperfect people, a bunch of hypocrites together worshiping a perfect God. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And, you know, I was thinking about this. There's a passage in John chapter 20. Just stay standing for a second. It's a passage in John chapter 20, and it's a story of Mary Magdalene, who was a really close friend with Jesus. And the story goes like this in verse 13 to 15. She was mourning the loss of her friend. Even though Jesus had talked over and over again to all his crew about what would happen, he would die and then he would resurrect. On the third day, his body went missing. And so Mary Magdalene went to the tomb, and the body was missing. Like we were just singing a second ago, the body was missing. The grave was robbed, so to speak. And there was two angels sitting in the tomb, and she was crying, and the angels asked Mary, "Why are you crying? Why are you so upset?" And her response was, "I don't know where they put Jesus, his body. I don't know where Jesus is." Isn't that the question that a lot of us ask in life? Where is Jesus right now in our life? Where is Jesus? Where is this new life? Where is Jesus in the midst of my struggling marriage? Where is Jesus in the midst of my struggling kids? And where is Jesus? The body is missing. Jesus is missing out of the equation. Where is Jesus? And it's so easy to blame what's not happening on God in our life, rather than sometimes to look within and say, are we really looking right? Are we seeing right? Because when she left the temple, or left the tomb, it says in verse 14, she turned to leave and saw someone standing there. And it was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. It's kind of the story of a lot of our lives. We cry out to Jesus. We ask Jesus to show up, and we send a panic prayer to heaven when we're not doing well, right? We haven't prayed all week or the last 10 years of our life, and everything's falling apart. We send a panic prayer and wonder where Jesus is in those moments. And oftentimes, the very solution that we're looking for stands right in front of us. But because it comes in an unexpected way, we don't recognize it. We don't recognize it. You see, Mary was looking for a sacrificed Jesus rather than a resurrected Jesus. She was looking for the Jesus she just saw bloody on the cross, but Jesus, he looked different in that moment, and he wanted to change her expectation, but she couldn't recognize it. And my prayer for you today is that you would move from death to life, that you would resurrect, that you would recognize the life that is in this room this morning, that maybe a lot of what's happening around you is unfamiliar, but let me just tell you, there is resurrection life in this room this morning. One last time, just lift your hands up, and my prayer is that there would be an evidence for you, there would be an experience for you that would absolutely change your life. And so we pray, God, by your Spirit, by your Spirit, by your Spirit.
By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise
Come on, one last time.
from the ashes of defeat.
It's rising up day. It's Resurrection Sunday.
Is
Resurrection Sunday. It's a new day.
in your
It's a new
name
day.
I come
Come
alive
on.
to declare your victory. The resurrected King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me.
Awesome. We love you, Jesus. We love you. Welcome, welcome. You guys can take a seat. I wanted to build your calf muscles a little bit this morning. Work those muscles out. Some of you need some cardio. Standing is all we're going to get. But, this day is special, obviously, for many reasons, and we're excited that you're with us this morning to be a part of that. Obviously, Sunday is Resurrection Sunday, as you know. But one of the sentimental things for me this morning is that this is also a 10-year anniversary. 10 years ago, April 1st, 2008, Kingdom Culture became a legally, federally incorporated charitable organization. Some of you don't think that's a big deal, but we became legit 10 years ago. We became legit. So it's really a 10-year anniversary for us, and we're just so thankful for all the things that God has done. Obviously, the church, it's not the church's 10th year, but Michelle and I, we started out as itinerants, traveling the world, speaking, communicating, teaching. and with a very strong mission, missional mindset, lots of media involvement that was in that time as well, and teaching schools on the supernatural, and our whole world changed really in that time frame. And I actually had started ministry before that, but we didn't have an official organization, and so I just want to celebrate, and I think maybe you could with me too if you've been with us for that long, that God has done some incredible things over the last 10 years within the ministry of Kingdom Culture. And now we get to hang out with you guys and have an amazing church community like yourself. And so we're so privileged, my wife and I get to lead this amazing church. And punch your neighbor and say, you're one of those people. You're one of those people that we just love. That we just love. I think one of the questions that I'd say probably I thought about or think about the most, probably have asked the most, whether I spoke it out loud to God or spoke it internally, which is also a question that many of us ask in this room constantly. It's a common question. It's a question that we often ask when we're struggling with something, when we're going through a painful season, when we're going through a hard season. It's a question that we often ask when we just don't understand what's going on. Maybe there was a death in the family and someone got sick or something happened that you didn't expect. We often ask this question out loud, whether it's verbally or internally. It's, where are you? Where are you, God? Where are you? Maybe for some of you, it was, where were you when my marriage was falling apart, God? Where were you? So many people who start off well, they have this relationship with God that they're developing over the course of time. It ends up stopping because they have a moment where they just can't see God in their struggle. And so they say, okay, well, God, you must not be real. You must not be there for me. You weren't there for me then. Where are you? And a lot of us in this room can relate to that question, right? Where we've been in seasons where we're wondering, okay, where is God in this equation? Where is God in this situation? And I was thinking about this over and over again in my mind, and it's a question that all humans ask, but I wonder if we've got it wrong. I wonder if we got it a little bit backwards. And I was thinking about the first question that was ever asked to mankind by God himself was that same question, where are you? Where are you? It's very easy for us in times of struggle to blame God for things that aren't happening. But I believe God is looking at us and saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll show you where I am, but I want to locate you first. I want you to locate your season. I want you to locate your position. I want you to locate your heart. I want you to locate your mindset. I want you to locate your struggle. I want you to locate your present reality, because unless you can locate where you currently are, you do not have a path to go from for where you're going. Unless you can find out and figure out where you are currently located, you can't set the GPS properly to go where I want to take you. To get the destination, you got to get your location services turned on and locate where you are right now, currently. You with me? Yeah. You with me? It's very important that we understand this. And I was thinking about this and this whole premise of, if God in the flesh, in the person of Jesus, was here this morning on Easter Sunday, I believe he'd ask you this question: where are you? Where are you at? Where are you at right now? What's your position in life? Are you happy with where you're at? Are you happy with what's gone on in your life? Are you happy with your present reality, your present condition? It's the question that he's always asking us. Have you ever heard somebody say, I'm not where I thought I was going to be? Like 15 years ago, I thought I was going to be at age 30 or at age 40 or at age 60. I thought I was going to be a lot further along my journey by now. We've all kind of said that, right? We are all probably in a place right now where we did not expect we would be. If we were to talk to the 18-year-old self or the 10-year-old self and tell that self where you are right now, I bet you there'd be a conflict. There'd be a conflict. And I think that I was thinking about my own life. If somebody asked me when I was 18 years old where I would be at my age right now, I would probably say, and I said it actually at my graduation commencement, I'm going to be living in the U.S. because I want to get out of Canada. I'm going to be living in the U.S. I'm going to be touring as a musician full time. That's what I said on my commencement. Actually, I used the words rock star. That's what I actually used. I wanted to be in a touring band and living in the U.S. That was my dream. And now I look where I am right now, and I would have never said that I would be doing what I'm doing. Jesus interrupted my life at 18 years old on the 417 coming back from Canada. He interrupted my car ride home, and everything changed for me. Everything changed. Everything changed. And in that moment, Jesus located me. He located me. This is my condition. This is where I'm at. I want to read you a passage of scripture out of Genesis 3. If you can track with me, out of Genesis 3, verse 7. Let me just give you a little bit of context before I dive into this. It's the story of creation, really, from 1 to 3 is really a story of the beginnings of creation all the way to mankind. And heavens and earth were created. There was a garden that was created. And there was no sin yet. There was no, in a sense, darkness yet, so to speak. And Adam and Eve, they were placed in the garden. The first of mankind were placed in the garden, and they were naked. There was just a picture, this symbolic picture of there was nothing covering them or protecting them from intimacy is the picture. There was pure intimacy. It was holy. It was right. It was just perfect. It was the first nudist colony that had ever existed, really. So they're prancing around naked, dancing around, jolly, happy, and they're doing their thing. But there was one situation, there was one thing that they had to understand, is that they could eat anywhere they wanted to, except for the one tree in the middle of the garden, and that was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And if they ate off that tree, this is what God said, if they ate off that tree, they would surely die. In other words, prior to that, they were going to live forever. Sin hadn't come into the picture yet. So that God said, if you eat off this tree, you'll surely die. And the reason why that was established is because love, true love, cannot force itself on somebody. Love is an invitation into an experience. And so if God didn't give that opportunity for man to choose independence rather than dependence, it wouldn't be love. Mankind was given an opportunity to choose to either be dependent on God or independent and go their own way. See, love never forces itself. It just gives an opportunity for reciprocation. And so they chose, obviously, they chose to eat the apple or the fruit off of the tree, and that was desirable to make one wise, it says, and they chose, and that's when everything changed. Everything changed in that moment. And I want to pick it up in verse 7. It says, at that moment, their eyes were opened. All of a sudden, they had an awareness of darkness. They never had an awareness of darkness yet. They had an awareness of darkness, shame, and guilt, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness. In this moment, God just destroyed the first nudist colony. So they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. When the cool evening breezes were blowing, the man and his wife heard the Lord God walking about in the garden. So they what? They hid from the Lord among the trees. You got to help me out here a little bit, guys. They hid from the Lord among the trees, verse 9. And the Lord called to the man. What was the first question? Where are you? We're asking God where he is, but since the beginning of time, he's been trying to get you to locate yourself. Because God's not stupid. He wasn't walking in the garden and be like, man, I lost them. Like as if I lost them. It's like a bad, mother moment or father moment in the shopping mall. I lost my kid. It wasn't like that. Like, where are you like that? It was like, I'm asking you a question so you hear your own answer, because really what I want to get to is what you just did. What I want to get to really is, what did you just do? Not really where are you, but in the question, where are you, hopefully you'll be able to acknowledge that I must have done something. I chose in that moment to no longer be dependent on God, but to choose my own way, my own path, become my own God in that moment. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Verse 10, he replied, I heard you walking in the garden, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked. I want to speak on this subject today. If you're taking notes, write this down. Really, it's a subject that really is a question, and it's, where are you in life? Really, it's, where are we in life? Are we aware of our present reality? Like I said earlier, to reach our destination, we have to identify our current location. You ever been in a situation where your data wasn't working and you're driving somewhere? Anybody in here? Anybody feel my pain? You're driving to like Timbuktu, where there's no internet, like Carlton Place. There's no internet in Arnprior. There's no internet in Perth, okay? So you're driving into one of those out there areas, okay? And you're driving, and all of a sudden you have no data, and you try to get your location, but it's not recognizing it. Has that happened to anybody? It's happened to me multiple times. So I'm trying to get somewhere, but for me to understand where I got to get to, I got to find my location. And so sometimes what I'll have to do, you have to open up the map. You got to zoom in on the map and say, okay, I'm right in front of the Tim Hortons. I'm beside the Canadian Tire. And so you have to locate your present scenario so you know which way to go. Because if you're directionally challenged like I am, anybody directionally challenged? Okay. I go into a mall and I'm like, okay, so it says the store that I want to get to is over here on the map, but it says I'm right here, but then I'm trying to figure out, okay, so where am I right now? Even though the map says it, I still have a hard time figuring it out. Anybody with me on that? I don't know. I'm not gifted that way. It's hard for me to, I don't know how we ever used MapQuest. I don't know how we ever used actual maps back in the day. Thank God for GPS, but when the data is not working, it's old school. It's old school again. You got to locate your current situation. In other words, to reach your destination, you got to figure out your starting point. You got to figure out your starting point. Any recovering individual would tell you this, that the first step of recovery is to admit you have a problem to recover from. In other words, admit your current location. Because if you can admit where you're currently located, then we can get you to your destination. But if you can't admit where you're currently located, chances are we won't be able to get you where you want to go. Life as a whole really is centered around destinations. I mean, think about it. Everything that you think after this experience is done, you have a destination to go to. Maybe it's some sort of turkey dinner or turkey lunch. Maybe it's some sort of, late lunch in the mid-afternoon. Maybe you're going home with your family, you're going to hang out, have some family time. Every part of life is centered around a destination. You have a destination. Your destination is the bathroom. Your destination is brushing your teeth. Your destination is getting to the gas station, to getting to work on time. Every day is full of trying to get somewhere that you need to go. But to get there, you have to be aware of where you are. You can't plan to get to work on time if you don't know where you are and how long it takes you to get from here to where you need to go. You tracking with me? It's very important that we learn to understand where we are located. Let's finish off this passage really quick in verse 11, Genesis 3, verse 11. It says here, after they had told God they were hiding because of fear, God says to Adam, he says, "Who told you that you were naked?" The Lord God asked, "Have you eaten from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat?" Do you think God did not know what was going on? God never asks a question that he doesn't already know the answer to. He asks a question so you hear your own answer. You come to your own conclusion. That's what a good counselor does. You ever been in a counseling session? And they'll ask you, "How did that make you feel? What do you think about that person?" They have that very calming voice. And then you start to talk it through. And through the question, she may even know the answer. She may know how you feel. She may know exactly what you're thinking. And she may even know what you need to do. But there's something about you learning to pull out your own answer. Because once you pull out your own answer, you have no excuse to not make it happen in and through your life. So verse 13, the Lord God asked the woman, "What have you done? What have you done?" "The serpent deceived me," she replied. "That's why I ate it." So really a woman screwed all humanity. But anyways, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. They were together in it. They were together. They're one, right? You got to think, if one screws up, they both screw up together, okay? Okay. I want to ask you 3 questions this morning. The short time I have with you, I want to ask you 3 questions. I believe God is asking us 3 questions and helping us locate where we currently are. Number 1, are you hiding in this season? Are you hiding? What are you hiding from? When this whole situation happened. And the reason why I'm taking us back to the beginning, because sometimes to understand the end, we have to really understand the beginning. To understand the destination, which was the cross, which was the empty tomb, to understand that, we have to understand the beginning of why that needed to happen. We have to go back a little bit. We have to rewind. So the question that I believe God is asking us this morning is, in what area, in what thing in your life, what exactly are you hiding from in this season of your life? In the context of Adam and Eve, they were hiding from the shame and the guilt and the fear that they felt as a result of the condemnation that came on them in that moment. And so they got a fig leaf to cover themselves, to kind of secure their confidence and to secure their insecurity, because all of a sudden they were aware of how vulnerable they really were, and they were naked. They didn't know they were naked before. They didn't have any realization or understanding of what nakedness was until sin came into the equation. All of a sudden they were aware, and they were full of shame, and they were full of condemnation. I bet you in this room, all of us have something that we are hiding from right now in this season of our life. We're hiding from relationships. Maybe we've been hurt too much, so we hide from relationships. Rather than pursuing and connecting in relationships, we hide from them, because it's easier to protect ourselves and not get hurt than to put ourselves out there and get hurt. Maybe we're hiding from that big step we need to take in business or in our career, and we're afraid, what if we fail? What if we take the step and then we fail? And so we hide out. And we have all the ideas and all the vision and all the heart and all the desire, but we're just hiding out in our little corner because we're afraid that something bad's going to happen to us. You know, maybe we're hiding under the shame of something that happened to us 20 years ago still, and it's still haunting us to this day. Maybe we hide behind our communication, and we feel like we always got to be talking, because if we're not talking, it's uncomfortable, because I don't like silence. And so we're almost hiding that awkwardness within us, our own insecurity, by masking it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we're hiding behind a bunch of makeup or a bunch of clothes or a Gucci bag because we want the world to think something of us that's not true. Maybe we're hiding from our behind our profile pic on Facebook or our Instagram status, and we're hiding behind all these pictures that celebrate the highlights when really we're struggling inside. And our life is falling apart. Every one of us in this room have something that we're hiding behind, something that we're hiding from. I know moms would agree with this, and I know maybe some dads. Sometimes I go to the bathroom voluntarily when my kids are in a really intense moment. Anybody do that? And I confess, I'm actually hiding. My wife does this, I guarantee it. We're actually hiding from the chaos sometimes. We're hiding, right? Nothing's happening in the bathroom. We're just hiding. That's what's happening. You get what I'm saying? Are you guys here this morning? Any parents agree with me here? Any parents feel what I'm feeling? Sometimes I love my kids. We love our kids. But sometimes it's so chaotic and so intense, we just got to hide a little bit. I know one time I was speaking at this, I won't say when it was, because if somebody's going to watch this, they might think it was them. But let's say in the last 3 years, I was traveling somewhere in Canada. So I have no idea where I was. Somewhere in Canada, I was traveling, and I was speaking at this conference. I had never been to this area before, never knew what it was like, didn't even really know the leaders who had brought me in. And I remember getting to the conference. First of all, I got to the hotel, and I don't know about you, but for me, like, hosting is a big deal. So if I get into a hotel and I have a bad experience when I step like my first step in the hotel, I basically judge the whole hotel by the hosting experience. Does anybody else do that? Okay, whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant. I just judge the hotel the moment I walk in by the first person I talk to. Like you judge our church when the first person you walk in, the first person you talk to, you're already judging our church. They're not friendly. You didn't smile at me. We have a great host team. But I remember I came into this hotel and I was like, oh man, it was a little bit uncomfortable with what was happening in the hotel. It just felt like it just, I don't know, it just kind of shocked me a little bit. It surprised me, put it that way, the things that were happening in the hotel. And whatever, so I went, got ready for the meeting, because the meeting was actually near the vicinity of the hotel. And so I got ready for the meeting, and I walked into the meeting, and I walked into this moment, and I was thinking to myself, why am I here? Like, it was like totally a shock. The things that were happening, the things that were going on, the whole scenario. I won't bring you into the details just in case the person watches and they get really hurt from what I'm about to say, because I really loved my time there. I'm just telling you my process. I walked in, and it was a struggle for me. And so I walked out. Of the meeting, and I went into the bathroom, and I hid, and I was texting my wife I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm like freaking out. I don't know if I have anything to give to these people. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. I can't do this. I was just having one of those moments hiding in the bathroom. It's a great place to hide because nobody knows everybody thinks something's going on when really nothing's going on. You're just, so it works out. So I'm hiding, and my wife sends me this text, this reply saying, you need to do it. God's going to break through. And I know, principally, I know these moments that these are true moments for me because every time my wife texts me those types of things, stuff always happens that's amazing. So sometimes I just text her that just to get the encouragement back because I know she's going to encourage me. She's like, you need to get out there right now. You suck it up, buttercup kind of thing, Get out there right now and do your thing. Like, God's with you. God's going to move. And it was crazy. I mean, we had one of the most amazing times. Some crazy things were happening. And I was so thankful that I didn't. And obviously, I wouldn't have let that stop me. But sometimes we go through seasons where we try to hide from facing things that we're uncomfortable with. And Adam tried to hide from his fear and nakedness in this moment. But God had already established a way out. God already saw the end from the beginning. But God wanted Adam and Eve to become aware of their present location so he could take them to the destination. He wanted them to become aware of what they had just done. Because in the awareness of what they had just done is the acknowledgement that there is a forgiving God that could forgive and has already forgiven me for all that I had just done. That's a picture of what we're celebrating this morning, is that Jesus died on a cross, a sinless death, over 2,000 years ago for your past, present, and future sin. He took care of all the junk, took care of all the stuff in your life that would ever hold you back. All you have to do is receive it. All you have to do is receive it by coming to a place where you can locate your present reality and be real with where you're at. Number one is, are you hiding? Number two, God is asking us, are you holding back? Are you holding back? Are you holding back? I love what I'm bringing you through really is 3 separate stories in 3 separate gardens. 3 separate stories in 3 separate gardens. The first garden was the Garden of Eden. The second garden is found in Mark chapter 14. And the verses are from 32 to 41. I won't read everything, but this was the Garden of Gethsemane. It was the place of great pressure. It was the place where Jesus made a decision to be all in and to go to the cross because he was a human just like us. Although he was fully God, he also had to become like us. He had to feel what we would feel so he could be that sacrifice that we would need so we could have success in life. Our success in God comes from his sacrifice. And so in this moment in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was struggling. It actually says he was so stressed out that his pores, his body went into what they call hemohydrosis, and his sweat began to turn into literal drops of blood. His body was in such shock and stress because he knew that he had to drink this, what they called the cup of death. He had to carry his cross. He had to die willingly on a cross, getting nails in both of his hands and his feet and thorns on his head wedged into his skull and carry this cross all the way up this hilltop and then be on a cross for God knows how long while they dislocated his shoulder and stabbed his side with a spear. He knew all this was going to happen. And so in a moment of great pressure and stress, he actually said, if it's possible, God, can you take this cup from me? If it's possible, can I escape this pressure? Can I get out of this scenario? And he had a moment where he realized, you know what? No, like the people that I'm doing this for are more important than what I'm about to go through. And the people are all in this room. All of us were in his mind in that moment when he made that decision. Not my will, but your will. Not what I want to do, not what I feel in this moment, but what you feel, what you want from me. And it was in that moment that he made that decision. But what I want to share with you is that in that moment, he asked one thing of his disciples. He said, guys, listen, this was his crew. This was his team. He asked one thing of them. He said, guys, if you can, everything's about to go down. Like, it's about to get cray-cray in here. It's about to get nuts. It's going to be off the hinges. Like, I can't do this myself. I need you. I need my community with me. I need my crew with me. I need you guys to back me up. And so if you could just please stay watch with me for 1 hour. Stay watch with me. If you could just, be alert, because I want you to pray. I want you to pray. I'm going through a hard time, but I need your prayers right now. I need your spiritual support. And if you know the story, his crew kept falling asleep. He was all alone, and every time he'd go back, and I'm paraphrasing right now, every time he'd go back to his disciples, he'd be like, where are you guys? Like, what are you doing? Like, can't you just stay awake for 1 hour? Like, come on. Like, Mr. Millennial, can't you get up when your alarm clock goes off? What are you doing? That's what he was saying, because they actually were kind of all millennials. I'm so tired, Jesus. You have no idea what I went through last night. I'm so tired, I'm so tired. I watched Netflix all the way till 2 a.m. I finished the series, and I just can't get up on time. Peter was a little older, so he's like, yeah, I was fishing all night, and then after we fished, we went out to the local Brazilian barbecue place, and we ate, we had to eat. We were so hungry. And so we got home at like 4 a.m. That's why I'm tired. Yeah, whatever the excuse is, the question is, are you holding back in this season? Are you holding back because of an excuse? Are you holding back because in this scenario, all Jesus wanted them to do was locate their own soul? Yeah, this is where I'm at right now. Really, they were holding back. Why? Because they didn't really get what was going on. They didn't really understand what was about to happen. Even though they had been primed, they had been taught, Jesus had walked them through a process, they didn't really get it. So what are you holding back in this season? What are you holding back? Maybe it's giving your best to your kids, giving your best to your job, giving your best in life, giving your best to your relationship with God. What are you holding back in this season? Can you locate the position of your own soul in these areas? Number 3, last question that I believe God is asking us is, are you barely hanging on? Are you barely hanging on? Anybody in here ever feel like quitting? Yeah, anybody feel like quitting? No, only a few people. I heard this statement one time. It really rocked me. And it was a statement from, it was some quote from some successful individual over the course of time. They said this, and I've heard it quoted a few times, something along the lines of, if you don't have the temptation to quit 1 to 3 times a day what you're doing probably isn't worth it. If you don't have the temptation to quit, because the only things that are worth doing in life are the things that often you'll have the most struggle with. Like, is marriage easy? No. Is fulfilling all of your purpose in life easy? No. Is accomplishing your dreams easy? No. Is being on time for work easy? Should be, yes. But there are areas in all of our lives where we probably feel like we're barely hanging on. I know that was me at 18 years old. Before I had this encounter with Jesus in my car, I know that was me. I was barely hanging on, feeling and asking this question often without even really knowing it. But this internal dialogue was happening is, where are you, God? Like, I don't want religion. If you say you're a God of relationship, then I want to find you in relationship. I want to find you in a real way that changes and transforms my life. I don't want to just go through routine. And so Jesus visited me. I had a visitation in my car, 18 years old, on the 417, while I was barely hanging on. At the end of myself is where I found the beginning of God in my life. And often God will bring you to the end of a season, bring you the end of yourself, bring you to the place where you want to quit only so he can start you off new, start you off fresh, start you off totally changed, totally transformed in life. And many of us in this room are barely hanging on to something. Maybe it's our marriage. Maybe it's our job we want to give up. It's too hard. It's not the job that we thought it was going to be, and we thought it was going to be one thing, but it's another thing, and we don't understand what's going on, yet we really feel like we were supposed to do this job, and yet it's kind of changed a little bit, and how do I navigate that? I'm barely hanging on. Let me just give you a promise I believe to be absolutely true. If you just hang on a little longer, everything will change for you. Everything will change for you, because the things that are worth doing in life are the things you're going to want to quit the most. You're going to want to give up the most on in life. Maybe we're hanging on to hate, unforgiveness in our life. We're just hanging on to stuff. And Jesus wanted to quit. I mean, Jesus, God himself, fully human, fully God, wanted to give up in the garden. Wanted to give up in the Garden of Gethsemane. He wanted to give up when the pressure was the most intense. He wanted to quit. But he was reminded that you were worth the effort. He was reminded that you were worth the sacrifice. He was reminded that, hey, unless I do this, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, they don't get restoration with me and the Father. They don't get to have a relationship. I have to do this to set the record straight. I have to come, as the Bible calls Jesus in the New Testament, as the second Adam. I have to become the second Adam. The first Adam made a big mistake, but I had to come as the second Adam to change the game, to reestablish the bloodline, so to speak, the spiritual bloodline. Because everybody born after Adam were born into the image of Adam, born into the image of sin and struggle. When you were first born, you were not born into the image of God. The whole reason why Jesus had to come as the second Adam was to give you what the Bible calls a born-again experience. You have to be born again. You were first born in the image of Adam, but when you're born again now, you're born from above. Your spiritual DNA changes into what it's always and was always destined to be in that moment by accepting what Jesus did on the cross as the second Adam. Jesus had to come to the end of himself so you could find the beginning of yourself. I love it because on the way to the cross, he had to go through a lot of things. And I guarantee you, all the way to the cross, he was probably thinking, is now my chance to get off the cross. Is now my chance. Is now my chance. Is now my chance. I can't do this anymore. Is now my chance. Is now my chance. I can't do this. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. Even to the place where in every moment leading up to the cross, he was becoming your substitute. He was taking your pain. He was taking your guilt. He was taking your condemnation. He was taking your shame. All the things that Adam and Eve felt in that garden thousands of years prior, he was experiencing in his body. The whole time. The whole time. He carried a cross to represent the burden that you shouldn't have to carry in life. The burden of trying to work your way into some sort of experience with God, to work your way, if I just be a good enough person and do enough good works, God will accept me. No. He took that work. He did that work for you, so you wouldn't have to do the work that you could never do to get you to the end and the destination you were called to get to. He took the beatings, he took the lashes on his body. The Bible says so you could be healed in your body. His body was broken down so your body could be rebuilt and restored. The crown of thorns actually released a poison into his skull. As they hammered it into his skull, he took the poison. He let his mind become poisoned so you could be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He took the nails in his hands so that you could have a prosperous life with everything that you touch in life. That you could have pure hands, that you could, whatever you put your hands to would prosper in life, that he would prosper the work of your hands. He took the nails in his feet so that you could walk the walk of faith you're called to walk with him throughout the days of your life. Everything had a picture attached to it. Everything that he went through was an act as a substitute for you, to finish the work that you could never finish, to pay the price that you couldn't afford, to pay off your sin debt. He did all of that through every act of brutality leading up and on the cross. And then in one moment in Matthew 27, verse 45, he was on the cross. This was the last moment. This was the last moment before he said the words, "It is finished." It says, at noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice. I won't even say that. But what he said meant, my God, why have you abandoned me?" Now, the reality of it is, and I want you to hear me, God never abandoned his son. But in that moment, Jesus took the weight of all of our sin on his life in that moment. And in one moment, he felt the pain of it so much, it was so intense, that he felt abandoned. See, he wasn't abandoned, but he had to feel abandoned as our substitute so we would never have to go through life feeling like we've been rejected by God. He had to feel the feelings of rejection so that we would never have to feel those feelings of rejection from a loving God. In that one moment, our question of where are you, God, and his question of where are you, son, became one, and Jesus asked the question, my God, where are you? Why have you abandoned me? He was going through all of that just for you and I. Just for you and I. It says in Galatians chapter 3, verse 12 to 13, this way of faith is very different from the way of the law, which says it is through obeying the law that a person has life. But Christ has rescued us from the curse pronounced by the law. When he was hung on the cross, he took upon himself the curse for our wrongdoing. Did you hear that? When he hung on a cross, in that moment, Jesus was barely hanging on, just like you are right now in life. He was barely hanging on to that cross. And in that one moment, he had to feel what you would be feeling right now so that you wouldn't have to barely hang on in life and that you could have a victorious life. I want you to stand up with me as we close here. The most important part of this whole story was in John chapter 19, verse 30, when Jesus' last words were, "It is finished." What he was saying was the story that began way back in the garden ended in a garden. Where he was crucified was right near a garden, where the garden tomb was, because it was empty. And there was a place for his body. Where he was sacrificed for our sin, for our freedom, it was a garden. What started in the garden ended in the garden. And the journey of allowing and helping us let go of all the condemnation, the guilt that sin would bring to our life, he destroyed in one act on the cross. And so he had confidence when he said, "It is finished." After he felt that one moment of rejection, he knew that was the last moment that he had to feel rejected so we could feel accepted. He had to go through that moment as a substitute. Everything changed in that moment. If you're in this room right now, I want you to just close your eyes. If you're in this room right now and maybe you don't know what would happen to you if you were to die today. You don't have a relationship with Jesus. You have been around religion. You've seen religion. Maybe you grew up around it. Maybe you saw it. Maybe you left religion. That's how maybe you communicated. I kind of left religion. A lot of people always say, "I don't like organized religion." Well, Jesus is all about relationship. He wants relationship with you. He created you for relationship. He created Adam and Eve in the garden for a relationship. They made a mistake and they messed it up, but he had a plan to redeem them. He had a plan to destroy what started to destroy them. He had a plan and he did it on the cross. It's good news because it's not something that you can work for or that you can pay for. You just get to accept this amazing work that was established for you. You get to accept the payment that was paid for your sin debt that you could never pay through good works. All you have to do is accept it. And if you're in this room right now and you don't know what would happen to you if you were to die today, I want this to be a personal moment between you and God right now. I want you to close your eyes just for a few moments. Just close your eyes. If this is a moment where I believe God wants you to locate yourself, locate your current reality, your current situation, locate your current struggle, locate your current condition. And maybe you would say, yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm barely hanging on. I am holding back in life. And all these things that were said today really do ring true to me. And I do feel like I'm hiding from life. I'm hiding from relationship. But ultimately, I'm hiding from you, God. I'm hiding from my purpose. I'm hiding from my destiny because of fear and shame and guilt. And nobody knows what really I've done in my past. Nobody really knows. And if they did, they wouldn't accept me. And so you hide as a result of that for fear of being rejected. But God sees it all. God sees it all. God sees it all today. And He just wants that relationship with you. So as your eyes are closed, if you feel like that makes sense to you and you don't know what would happen to you if you were to die today, I want to give you an opportunity to start this relationship, to end one chapter of your life and begin a new chapter in your life, to end one cycle and begin a new cycle. If you would say, Sean, I actually want to let Jesus into my life today. I want to say yes to Him. I want Him to be the center of my life. I want to try this relationship. I want to give my life to Him. He gave all of His life for us, and He just invites us to give all of us back to Him. Because ultimately, it's about reaching that destination. So if you're in this room and that's you, on the count of 3, I want to encourage you, just boldly put up your hand. No one's going to be looking at you. No one's going to be, wondering. But, this is a you and God moment. Maybe you were brought by somebody, and this is your first time in a long time at church. It's okay. Don't worry about what anybody would think, because in the end, when it's over, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. What matters is that you were given an opportunity to make a step, and you were given an opportunity to boldly, without fear, just make a decision on your own without worrying about what somebody thinks beside you. When you put up your hand in just a moment, really it's just a sign of an inward surrender. Your physical action to represent an inward surrender. And God sees your heart. On the count of 3, if that's you, I want you just to boldly put your hand up. You say, I want to make a decision to let Jesus into my life today. I've been on the fence. I've been searching. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where I would go if I was to die today. But today I want to make that decision. 1, I'm going to make it today because I don't care what anybody thinks. 2, it's going to happen because God made it happen over 2,000 years ago, and all I have to do is accept it. 3, right now, just put your hand up if that's you. Just put your hand up boldly right now. If you want to make that decision, awesome. Awesome. This is the best decision you'll ever make in your life. Just keep your hands real high right now. You're just saying, when you put your hand up, you're just saying, I'm making a decision to say yes to Jesus today in my life. Just keep your hands way high right now. Just keep your hands way high. I want us to all together, just together say this. Say, Jesus, I believe that you are God. I believe that you died on a cross to destroy all the junk in my life, to set me free. I receive your forgiveness today. And I believe that you were raised from the dead on the 3rd day to give me new life. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Best decision you'll ever make in your life. For all of us in this room, before we close, I want us just, if we feel comfortable, just put your hands up one last time. And my prayer for you today is that you would leave saying, wow, there was evidence of God's presence in my life in that auditorium this morning. There was evidence of God being real. There was evidence of His miracle working power evident. Maybe you're in this room right now and you need a miracle in your body. You need something to change in your marriage. I just believe God's power is present to heal you. God's power is present to change you. God's power is present to transform your marriages, your career, your personal life on every level. God's power is present to change the situation that you feel right now, your anxiety, what you feel. Maybe you're feeling depressed. God's power is present to totally change the game in your life. And there's evidence evidence, I believe today is a sign of the evidence that changed everything over 2,000 years ago. Let's lift our hands right now. Let's lift our hands. We just say it right now. God, we believe. We believe. We believe. We believe today that everything can change. Everything can change. Everything can change. There's evidence around God to say that you are real.